I am absolutely thrilled, folks, to be able to bring you some fantastic news about what's been happening with PsychoTropical. For all of those who are dependent on and looking forward to availability of MAOIs and doctors being more willing and confident to use them, I've got really important and exciting news for you. We've had a lot of developments on PsychoTropical and a huge increase in activity, and I must say that a big part of that is down to the clever young people who've come on board to help with PsychoTropical with all of their skills in IT and other relevant activities. So a big thank you to Vince, who's the research consultant, our external research consultant, who's been doing a huge amount of work on the scientific papers I'm going to tell you about in a minute. And to Philip, many of you already know about Philip, who's come on board relatively recently to manage IT, and we're progressing well with that, and the new website may even be up by the time you all hear this. So that's a great step forwards. And to Lila in London, whose many skills in various areas have been a great help to me. Great help. Because I think you all understand that previously there was an awful lot I couldn't do because of my physical limitations, and because obviously you can't manage all the software and the platforms and everything at my age when you don't know about them, and well, it's obvious, isn't it? So let's get on with it. We have now got published 3 major contributions to the literature. The first, and probably the most important, although they're all important, but the first absolutely monumental, groundbreaking, first ever stuff is the new MAOI treatment guidelines. As some of you know, I'm not a fan of guidelines. They can become restrictive, but if we're going to influence people to use MAOIs, it's no good arguing about the guidelines that already exist for treatment-resistant depression or whatever it is, because they're never going to give much prominence to, haven't and never will give much prominence to MAOIs. So what we've got to do is to produce our own guidelines, and that's what we've done with bells and whistles on it. The paper is in the process of being refereed at the moment, and I'm quite sure it'll get published, because it has got the support of about 45 eminent academics, mostly professors, from universities all over, from down here in Australia and New Zealand, through to Europe, the UK, and most of North America. So you name a prestigious institution which you know about: Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial College, the Maudsley, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, UCLA, all of those people have come on board with this. And in fact, I have to tell you, Vince should be very proud of himself. He's done the lion's share of the work and driven it. Not only have these people come on board as co-authors of the paper, which gives it tremendous weight and authority, but also they've written Vince letters saying what a fantastic job he's done, how good they think it is, and been not just supportive, but giving Vince a deal of praise, which I think he richly deserves. So because that document's got such tremendous support, it's going to have tremendous authority, as you would hope and expect, and it will, I'm sure. So that's the first ever guidelines on the use of MAOIs. Pause and think about that. It's incredible. Hand in hand with that, Vince has driven also the production of a new diet guideline based on my research, some of which has previously been published, but Vince has brought it all together in a new and improved guise, form, and one of the things we're really emphasizing with this new guide is that it's to give doctors the knowledge and the confidence to educate the patients they treat about the diet. It's not difficult, but you really do have to understand a bit about it in order to give confident and clear advice. So we hope that new diet guideline is going to be a big advance in providing that educational information to doctors. Obviously it's suitable for patients to read as well, even though it is a little bit complicated. Well, not complicated, complex rather than complicated, but let's not get into that. That's going to be published soon, and also, and very importantly, we're publishing a sort of editorial type piece in one of the prominent European journals, the European Journal of Neuropsychopharmacology. That's particularly important because that journal is the official journal of the European College of Neuropsychopharmacology, and I hope we'll persuade them to back our effort, which is what all this is building up to, and I hope will be the culmination of our efforts, and that is an application to the World Health Organization to make these drugs part of the so-called essential medicines list, because that will also produce a great deal of international influence on the regulatory bodies and governments all over the world in all of those countries that are part of the come under the umbrella of the World Health Organization. And there are actually about 150 or more countries that come under that umbrella. So it'll influence all of them to pay more attention to these drugs and give them more, or their population, more ready access to them. I should also mention that we've put a very great deal of effort, well, not a great deal of effort, but we've made it an unalterable objective of all of these papers that they must be open access, so that anybody anywhere in the world, a bit like Wikipedia, anyone anywhere in the world can access the information in them. Now that comes with a cost, because the way publishing has changed nowadays, almost everything's behind a paywall unless it's an open access journal, and the open access journals charge enormous fees for the publishing of papers, and well, let's not go into that, but it's become a bit of a crooked business with some journals, too many. Anyway, we've got them open access, but there have been some significant costs involved in that, which is why we need to raise some money. Anyway, so that's right. Next, look, this is a really important development in the history of MAOI drugs. I think this is perhaps the most significant event, advance, change since MAOIs have been in use, because they've been in the shadows for so long. This process, I've said 45 or so eminent people from all these institutions, so we've generated a lot of new interest about this subject in a lot of very significant and influential people. So that's another significant event and major achievement. What I think all this results in is the whole business of the ongoing worries that have been about supply and demand, about the availability and supply of these drugs. And supply and demand are linked, and I think that a lot of people don't appreciate that if the demand isn't there, you can't expect the production to increase to match it. And the lower the production is, the higher the costs are, etc., etc. And that's part, not the whole story by any means, but that is part of what's driven the low availability and the higher cost of these drugs when they are off patent and should be basically dirt cheap. So I think you can see from that through PsychoTropical and the people who are helping me, we've made some fantastic progress in a number of different areas, which I think will help these serious problems. I've mentioned the WHO already. What all these achievements we've already made in an incredibly short period of time. What they're building up to is this application to the WHO to make these part of the essential drugs list. That means we've got to retain an external consultant to help with that on a more or less full-time basis, and we've also got to improve some of our things like what I'm doing right now. We've got better computers, better cameras, and we're trying to do all this in a way which is a little bit more quality and professional, and that helps the effort as well. But it all costs money. And I think with all of these developments and all of this help, we're going to be able to give this business of getting the WHO to put these drugs on the essential drugs list, I think we're going to be able to give that a really good shot. And I think that would be the final cherry on top of the cake, if you like, in terms of helping everybody all over the world get better access to these drugs, and that in turn drives up demand, which will drive down price. So I'm enthralled about this. I'm so grateful to these young people who've facilitated this and made it happen. So many different necessary elements have come together to make this as it is and to make it happen. So I'm so pleased. In order to do all this properly, we've set up a formal registered charity, which is actually going to be is based in London. We've already set it up. It's about to become totally active in terms of all the approvals and everything else that have to be achieved. That's been quite a bureaucratic and difficult business, and Lila in London has been the person who's driven that, so we all owe a debt to Lila for making that happen. The bank account is now up and running. I can actually transfer money into it now. We're going to do a GoFundMe campaign, and all that's going to be linked with PayPal and everything else, but it's all an interconnected, interwoven, difficult bureaucratic business, but Lila's just about got it nailed. So keep going, Lila. So very, very well, right now we can accept donations directly into the bank account, and within a very short time we'll have the GoFundMe up and running and all that sort of stuff. So the summary for what I want to say today is, you folks out there, this is our chance to really do something, and to make it happen we're going to need to raise a significant amount of money. When I say a significant amount of money, I suspect it'll finish up costing close to 100,000 euros. That's about the same in American dollars now. The American dollar and the euro are fairly close to level pegging as far as I know. So that's the ballpark figure. It may not be as much as that, but I think if we set our sights on that, we're being realistic. We all know everything always costs more and takes longer than you initially think it's going to. So we've got to be realistic. We hope, well, I'm quite certain we will get significant contributions from interested parties who produce these drugs, drug companies mainly, but other people too perhaps, who are involved in these drugs, and that'll help a lot. And a lot of the donations are also going to come from private individuals. I've got private individuals that I've helped in the past who've expressed a willingness to contribute more substantial sums of money than just an occasional small donation to me and PsychoTropical. So although this is under the banner of PsychoTropical, the charity has a specific defined aim. It's not just to distribute money all over the place. It's just solely for this aim of getting the papers published and getting the WHO application completed. So it's a very focused and specific thing. And of course the charity's got a constitution and all that sort of business that you have to do with a formal charity. So folks, let everybody you know if you've got any best friends who are multi-millionaires, have a word with them. Alright, Well, I hope there are many people out there listening to this who are as thrilled and excited about this news and what is yet to happen as I am. So play your part, do your best, contribute if you can, and keep listening for more significant developments. Okay folks, bye for now.